Are you concerned about US brokerages entering the UAE market?
No. Why is there so many UK estate agents moving here to be brokers? Because they know they'll earn more money.
Yeah.
You will earn more money as a successful broker in Dubai than you would in the UK as an estate agent.
A lot of them have confidence on these dating apps. When it comes to their professional life, they really struggle with transferring those suave skills. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Real Ones. Today, I'm joined by the one and only Richard Waind. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks, Joel. Thanks for having me.
I've watched all of the podcasts you've done now, and I've done my homework. And I have to say, the one thing I didn't know from all of that was what 7-year-old Rick wanted to do.
Well, as a 7-year-old, what did I want to do?
As a 7-year-old. Yeah.
Oh, crikey. There's probably two things. One, I wanted to be a soldier. I was sort of running. I was one of three boys, so I had two older brothers and spent my formative years running around the garden.
Okay.
So I wanted to be a soldier, which is a bit weird. And then I wanted to be an actor. I was a little thespian on the stage. So,
No way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Never quite came off.
Why? What happened?
Oh, I don't know. I think. I was in a lot of plays and things in school, which was great, good fun. And then, like all good parents, my mum and dad told me to focus on things like your education, all the rest of it, and do all the other stuff on the side. And before you know it, you're sort of in your mid-20s and you've got a career and all the rest of it. But look, I don't regret that. I still quite like talking in public like this.
Of course. And I thought it was only Indian parents that had an issue with this.
No. All parents. Yeah,
all parents.
Yeah.
I was Peter Pan in high school for one of my little plays, and
very good.
Yeah, and it was a big performing arts is like my calling. I'm gonna do it. I was the fattest Peter Pan you would have ever. It's a fat brown Peter Pan. That's what I was right there.
Man, I got typecast. So we did Bugsy Malone. I was Fat Sam in Bugsy Malone. So I was like, they were like, oh, you're a bit overweight. You'll do it. But that was great. Funny. I loved doing that. That was good fun.
And
good fun.
It's interesting how those kind of things transfer into life right now because public speaking, like you said, is a big part of your job. You get asked to come on to radio shows, talk shows, things like that. What do you think about the market? Where's the market going? And you're asked questions that you have to answer on your feet pretty much. And I have people that come here who just are unable to sometimes it's difficult, right? So things like acting, debating, these kind of things really open
100%.
you up.
My daughter, my eldest daughter, who's just turned 8, has started at Diverse.
Okay.
Which is a great little company, and the confidence you can see somebody of that age standing on stage in front of 200 adults, which is pretty terrifying, is brilliant. And I think I would encourage anybody, even our parents who wanted us to go off and do degrees and all the rest of it, I think encouraging the kids to do that at an early age is brilliant,
And if your kids are studying in Dubai, I would highly encourage you to send them for these Model United Nations.
Oh, really?
There's a lot of schools that run them. And basically I think it was one of the years I went to a Model United Nations because I was the debate team pushed. And they were talking about this resolution on stage and they finished talking about it, but I just wanted to get a chance to speak. So I kept raising my placard and then they eventually picked on me and I was like, oh, sure, let's go up and talk. And I started talking about the resolution that was already gone. The 18-year-old guy stands up and I'm probably 14 at this point. Yeah. And he's just like, delegate is talking about the wrong resolution and he must sit down. And I just walked back in shame, tears in my eyes. And then this girl wrote a note to me, and she was the delegate of Pakistan, I believe. Shout out Pakistan, saying that was really cute. And I was like, that's it. I'm becoming a public speaker.
There you go. Forget the other guy.
Yeah, forget the other guy. But he didn't get that note, delegate of Saudi Arabia.
Exactly. No, look, that again, that's another great example of in our formative years, you've got to have good experiences and those experiences that mold you, a couple of knocks that make you sort of get back on the horse and go again. So no, I that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be an actor when I was a kid. Yeah. I did lots of, I did law and I did mooting at uni. Yes, I was in the debate club as well. Mm-hmm. So we had a similar experience, but I think all of that stuff, public speaking and the ability to be able to communicate to a wider audience and a wider group, I think is invaluable, right? It's an invaluable skill for people. So the more they can learn it at an early age, the less it's terrifying when you get older, I guess.
Yeah, and your journey is, like you said, started with law. I think maybe you wanted to become Harvey Specter from Suits at one point. I think there was a British equivalent to that show.
There was a show in the UK, and I'm probably showing my age, it's probably in the 90s, called Kavanagh QC.
Okay.
And it was about some old guy who was a QC, Queen's Counsel barrister in the UK. And at the time, I remember seeing that go, yeah, I'll do that.
Are they the ones with the wigs?
They're the ones with the wigs. I wanted the wig. I wanted to be on stage. I wanted the gown.
Gotcha.
So that kind of was in my mind. But no, I did law. I did law for about 4 years. I often tell people, I've probably heard this before, I did law for 4 years, or studied law for 4 years. I practiced law for 4 days.
Wow.
I went, this isn't for me. And very, very quickly. And I sort of knew it wasn't for me before I'd got into it. But it was. I enjoyed it, and I think some of the learnings of law. It's a bit like what we were just talking about. The skills you learn are more important than the facts you learn, right?
Yeah.
So I think they still, again, put you in good stead for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And, talk to me about that journey going from law to real estate, and also your journey from London and, Manchester, London, Dubai, right?
So I'm from Manchester. I'm from a place called Stockport in Manchester. I studied law in Sheffield, and then within a week of finishing, I had a job in London. I had spent about 4 days in a law firm and just went, this just isn't for me. And I saw an advert on the back of a newspaper, and I can never remember. Memory's a funny thing. It was either somebody on a surfboard or a snowboard, one or the other. But I had this picture of somebody looking cool on a surfboard or a snowboard.
Right.
Come and sell houses in London. On target earnings first year, £80,000, which is a lot of money. And this was 20 years ago. It was a lot of money.
Wow.
And I thought, I'll fancy a bit of that. And the 80 grand was a bit pie in the sky, right? As all these adverts are. But I guess, and I took that job and I thought I'd do it for a year. And in many ways, I thought I'd go back to law. But 1 year became 3 became 5 became 10. And I enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. And I look back now and I know myself better than I knew myself at 20, right?
Yeah.
And I know I don't mind detail. I can get into detail, but I'm a far better kind of people person, far better sort of ideas person than I am the nitty gritty person. And to be a really good lawyer, that's what you got to be. You got to be a nitty gritty person. You got to be 100%. In the detail constantly, and that's just not naturally me. So I think it was the right decision.
No, I think so.
I'd have been a pretty average lawyer.
We're here now. The CEO of Betterhomes. That's not an easy feat, and you've done it for a while now. So, tell me about the first deal you ever closed.
Well, my first job in real estate, actually, I was in what effectively is a call center. So my first ever job in real estate was bringing on listings into the company.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was on a team of sort of 6, and we were given an area, and we had to phone through previous data, and it was 150 phone calls every day. And so the first sort of deals I closed then were bringing on listings to the company. But it was such, sales we talk about sales in real estate. One of the most sort of naturally sales parts of the job is winning a client and getting that client to commit to you and pay you a fee for a service, right?
Right.
Selling a house, obviously, the sales to it, but people see a house and the house sells to an extent, and I'm slightly sort of some of my brokers are going to not like that comment, but they will know that selling a service and signing a contract to instruct me on something is often the hardest sell, because somebody's making a decision between your service or their service, and they're weighing up what you're offering, they're weighing up what you're going to charge them. Right. So that was my first introduction to real estate, and I did that for a number of years, and it really sort of set you in. The things I learned from that. Work hard, because there was no hiding place. This was an office job where you were in a cubicle effectively making telephone calls every day, and it was all monitored. The ability to talk to people over the phone and communicate over the phone, which I think is an important role. Absolutely. And to be able to close, and to actually be able to close over the phone and get people to agree with you over the phone, sort of put you in good stead. That was my first. Those were my first closings.
That's a beautiful story, and what I see is a lot of people in my generation are like, not to say that your generation's that different.
I'm guessing, Joel, there might be a few years, mate.
A few years difference between us, but I've just seen that a lot of them have confidence on these dating apps, like, and texting, cold DMing all these random people. But then when it comes to their professional life, they really struggle with transferring those, suave skills.
Man, I think there's a danger of us going down a rabbit hole here, but yeah, I fully agree with you. I think most brokers in town have this sort of immediate WhatsApp thing, right? So because they used to, they spent the last 10, 15 years communicating to friends, future partners, whatever you want, apps, all this, right? And I think there is a danger that face-to-face communication or telephone communication is starting to kind of get lost a little bit. But I'm sure, those people that do well still have to.
And it's interesting because we just spoke about that evolution, right? Like first it was like going into knocking on doors pretty much and be like, hey, would you like, and then after that it became now sort of emailing people. And after emails, it's now become cold calling them. And now we're going into VR, right? Like we're going into sort of Apple Vision Pro. I am sure you saw the Arabian business thing that came out yesterday. And, we're just doing viewings virtually and things like that. Where do you kind of see real estate going in that sense?
That's a really interesting question. So, look, I think real estate will and is adapting and adopting a lot of these sort of things. And, could I see in the future you stick on your Apple Pro and I'm in one part of the city, you're in another, and we go on a virtual tours together? Yeah, absolutely. You can see that once the technology gets to a certain level. And you can see a lot of benefits from that. I'd like to think there's always going to be a place for a human being in it. And the reason, whenever you look at adoption of technology and automation of technology, the higher the value of something, certainly the higher the value of the purchase, often there tends to be then a correlation between wanting a human connection, right? So, low value, quick purchases, most of them are done now, I buy a pair of sneakers off the internet, I'll just do it, I don't speak to anyone, right? But over time, even with the adoption of technology, in fact, I saw some data in the last 15 years, as there's been more and more technology coming into the marketplace, the number of transactions in America that were or with a broker versus non-broker went from 90% with a broker to 98% with a broker. So all the new technology coming in has actually increased the number of deals going through brokers.
Right.
And I think, of course I'm going to like to think that's the future. But I think technology will continue to come in, but I hope technology will allow those good brokers who really add value. And in a world of technology, you've got to find the ways to add value through experience, through knowledge, through care, through empathy, and all those other things that a good broker should bring to the table, that the technology then enhances that and allows them to transact more.
This is what I don't like about property technology companies. I'm a prop tech company myself, right? I just don't like this disintermediating the agent business. Because fundamentally, buying a home is one of the biggest decisions you'll make in your life. Sure, we have the ultra high net worths that are like, buying like 10, 15 homes and like in a year they have a target and like, they're going after it. They have yield targets and things like that. But for the average person who works their whole life to see something built that they can own under their name and pass down to their kids. I surely hope there's a person that comes and opens the door to my house for the first time that I'm going to see it, and that it's staged in a way that it makes me imagine the way I'm going to live there, as opposed to like beep boop, beep boop. I'm just like, let's move to Palm Jumeirah and like 3 bedrooms, 2,000 square feet, please. Okay. Send payment on Amex, whatever. And that's it,
Yeah, I agree. And there's also, even on investing, like you're talking about high net worth, or whoever's investing, there is an element. So, I recently bought a little apartment in Manchester, and it was off plan, so I've never seen the thing. It was all done virtually, right? I wasn't in the city, I was over here, and it's all done, digital signatures, great. Haven't seen it. So you start thinking, okay, in that sort of space, will there be need for a broker? But there is, because the guy who bought it through, a guy called Greg, so shout out to Greg. Greg's sort of guy who I've known for maybe 5 years. He's become a friend over that period of time. And the only reason I bought that was because of Greg. Greg has been kept in touch with me for 5 years, not constantly, but at an appropriate stages sends me these opportunities. And I wouldn't have bought this property with all the tech in the world if it wasn't for Greg saying, actually, this one, my friend, I think you really should go for. And it's that trust in him over a period of time that's made me push the button on it. So it was a virtual purchase, had lots of tech involved, but it would not have happened if it wasn't for Greg. So there you go.
Yeah.
Shout out to Greg.
Agents first, right? I really think that is the way forward. And like, I think every piece of technology out there should be enabling agents to get their job done faster and, at the same quality that they want to deliver. We were talking about, expensive homes and like these kind of things earlier. The volume of $10 million plus homes in the UAE or in Dubai specifically has doubled that of New York, according to the CBRE thing that came out. So you got 10,000 something units plus. I think I'm confusing.
It won't be 10,000 units over 10 million, but it is a lot. I think there was more super prime property sold here last year than in London, which is crazy.
Insane.
Really.
Yeah. So 10,000 was for $5 million dirham plus homes, and then the $10 million was still double the volume of New York. So, and we know that the price per square foot is, I think you did the math on this, was it $1.3K or something like that per
I think they caught me on this on the radio, didn't they? It was about, so the average price per square foot here in Dubai at the moment is probably circa 1,300 dirhams, something like that.
Gotcha.
London is something around 4,000, 5,000, and Paris is about 5,000, 6,000. So we've still got a long way to go, so kind of towards the 3-4x some of these core cities.
Right.
But, it's catching them up.
Yeah, and what have you learned about, like, in that capturing that alpha of, like, 4xing pretty much, a lot of foreign investment has come in. And I think everyone can talk about investment patterns and, like, how the pandemic stopped Chinese investment and then, like, how the conflicts around the world are pretty much driving investment into the UAE. But what have you learned about people? Specifically, like, you can pick on any particular type of people, or you can just say in general as well, like, that you didn't really know before from meeting such high volumes of new people in this place.
Well, I guess the shift has been people's perception of Dubai. So I got here in 2017, and there was a bit of a sense at the time that, had Dubai kind of had its day a little bit, it didn't feel like it was growing. There was, I think, the exodus. People use the word sometimes to me, to this exodus of Dubai. And at the time, obviously, there was a lot of vacant properties. Yada, yada, yada. So I think what we've learned about, I guess, people at the moment is that this influx of people at the moment has been driven. And it is started with the pandemic, but what is driving people to Dubai, and therefore what is really important to people in the world at the moment, because that you can take a cross section of the people that have come to Dubai, and you really from that can extrapolate what is important to the world's population. Probably number one, safety, right? For all what you just mentioned. And that has been a driving factor, not just for people from terrible war zones, but even from London, a number of people I know who've moved here, and I asked them why they left London, and safety is always in the top one or two reasons. So, and I think that's a global thing. So safety, healthcare, education, all the sort of basic stuff. But the other thing that people, I think, are attracted to here, and when I speak to them, is that they like the entrepreneurship of the city, right? They feel that this is a place where there is a sense of anything's possible. If you're going to come here, you're going to work hard, you'll get some reward for it. And I think, again, this might be slightly my UK bias, because I look at the UK at the moment with a slight sort of roll of the eye. But I think people also look at Dubai at the moment as quite a positive place. People have chosen to be here. It's not negative, and there's a lot of negativity in the world at the moment, right? The UK in particular has that sort of feeling of it. Again, if anyone's watching from the UK, please don't comment below.
No. I mean, look, if the haters comment, then the engagement goes up, the views go up. That's the way I look at it.
Stuff, like,
I'll crop specifically this part out about you. But there has been those reports that, like, was it London or the UK is the most second depressing place in the world? I don't know, something crazy.
Christ. I mean, I can only worry for the place that came more depressing than the UK at the minute.
I mean, I think there's a lot more depressing places than the UK, and I think people measure depression very poorly.
Look, I love the UK, and I think it's a great place, and it's got so much to offer, in terms of arts and culture and all the rest of it, and sport and all the rest of it. But There does seem over the last few years, I don't want to get too political, but it does seem over the last few years since Brexit and a few other things, and it's got a bit sort of it's not right. As sort of shoulders back and as proud of itself as it should be at the minute, but it'll get there. Everything goes through sort of little waves,
cycles, right? And you obviously started at Foxtons and rather just like ran the estate agency circuit for a bit as well. So you understand that business really well. And you've seen the brokerage circuit out here. In the UK, you have, let's say, 1,000 self-employed people. Here you have north of 14,000 officially and probably 50,000 unofficially, unfortunately. But what does the UK estate agency model not understand about the brokerage piece and putting power into the hands of the agent? Because it doesn't make any sense to me, because I was in London. I was meeting with all sorts of estate agencies out there, trying to understand what's going on here. And I also met with a very cool brokerage. They have a Netflix show coming out. Shout out Daniel. But the interesting thing is, why don't UK estate agencies want to have more commissions for the agent?
Why don't the agencies want to give more commissions to the agent? Well, there's an obvious answer there. They want to keep it for themselves.
Sure. I mean, okay.
I think.
But this model, we've seen the brokerage model take off in the UAE, in the US. Yep. So why hasn't it changed?
Look, I think there's some history. Some of the estate agencies in the UK are 100 plus years old, right? So there's legacy to it, first and foremost. And I think it's changing. There's EXP, there's Keller Williams, there's a number of smaller brokerage models, as you just mentioned, the London Brokerage Group, I think they're called, who are doing some cool stuff. So it will change, and it is changing. That said, there is an efficiency to a UK estate agency model that you lose within brokerage, and that is that listings, and it works in a UK situation where listings are more exclusive, but listings being held centrally by the company or by a couple of manager listers, and then being openly accessed to all estate agents in the office is quite an efficient way to sell houses. It just is. With the brokerage model, where the broker has to find the listing, do all of the stuff behind the listing and bring it online, and they own it, and it is then incumbent on them to share it with everybody, and some are better than others at doing that. It is less efficient. So if you take the average estate agent in London, whilst they're not having to do half the job of the broker, they're not having to find the listings, bring on the listings, their sell-through rates and the number of properties they're selling versus a broker over here is probably a lot higher. So there is an efficiency there, but I think it's changing. I think, brokers in the UK, why is there so many UK estate agents moving here to be brokers? A, because of the lifestyle and all the rest of it, but B, because they know they'll earn more money. You will earn more money as a successful broker in Dubai than you would in the UK as an estate agent. So that's why a lot of people are moving over here. And I think because of that, the UK will shift. They'll change, because we've got to. We have to.
Yeah, and I'm very interested to see what that will do, because I was speaking to some entry level, let's say, folks. I spoke to people across the spectrum, basically, to understand why the system is the way that it is, right? We had an entry level person that was making 25K base pounds, and then got a discretionary bonus of between, I want to give a range, but let's say 8 and bonus. 20, with 8 being probably the accurate number. But imagine someone's making 35K in London. You can't live off of that today. No. It's in central London, etc. I'm sure there's obviously all sorts of circumstances and things like that, but as an estate agent, with the kind of things that you need to do, you have to meet clients, you have to go out for coffees, everything you're doing is to close the deal, right? Affording that becomes very difficult. So you go from real estate agents being this selling sunsets kind of model of that in your head, to then seeing these guys are barely making ends meet, right? So that doesn't sit with me, and which is why I am very not even cautious in saying that the estate agency model has to evolve, otherwise, and evolve immediately within the next 12 to 24 months even. Otherwise, you're going to see a massive shift, because technology that was previously just a thing can now help you source those leads as well, right? Qualify those leads, manage those leads, and then help you distribute them, just as the way that these estate agencies are, taking that large part of commission for. So with that, removed, then any person with 2 brain cells will basically be like, why wouldn't I just, you know?
It needs some pioneers, and it's
Yes.
got some, right? It's
Yes,
got Daniel and others over there doing it, and a bit like Dubai. It works because it plays to the highest common denominator rather than the lowest. Yeah? There's probably a lot of estate agents sat in estate agents' offices liking their 25 grand, not working very hard, don't have to sell many properties. And the person sat next to them who's doing all the hard work, selling everything, and still not getting a discretionary bonus. It's those people that sat there going, you know, why am I doing this? I could do better if I go to that brokerage model. But a lot of them, you know, frankly, a lot of those people with that entrepreneurial spirit have moved to Dubai and come over here. So there's lots of UK estate agents over here at the moment.
Some may be too entrepreneurial, I have to say. I mean, I think I've heard you answer this before. Like, do you think, you know, what's your advice for people starting new brokerages? And you said, don't.
There's a long answer and a short answer. The short answer is don't. No, the answer to that is I wish everybody very well in doing it. A couple of our guys recently set up, and they're doing really well, and they're great guys, and we do business with them. So I would always encourage somebody to follow their dream. But I would also encourage people to make sure that they know what they're going into. Don't go into it blind. You know, we're in a market cycle, and this is a market cycle. Nothing lasts forever. We're in a great market at the moment. There will be tougher times ahead, just because it's the real world. All right.
Of course.
We're in a market cycle where costs are very, very high. Portal costs are high, rental costs are very high, staff costs are very, very high. So people, if they want to open a brokerage, fantastic, go for it. I 100% go for it. Just understand the costs and make sure if in your head you're thinking, I'm earning 50 to 60% as a broker, and if I open my own thing, I'm going to get 100%.
No.
Doesn't do it. The brokerage isn't getting 50%. The brokerage is getting a fraction of what the broker is getting. So in that case, you need scale, right? So you need a number of brokers working for you if you're going to make it successful. And the other thing is you need to have a business that isn't just doing okay during times like today. You know, if you're in a brokerage today and it's not making ends meet today in this market,
you're going to struggle.
Oh, you're going to be in all sorts of trouble when this market tightens up.
Right?
And that will happen. You know, 2018, 19, brokerages were going bust every week. We picked up about six or seven brokerages that went bust, and we sort of took some of their people in. And I don't think it'll get as extreme as that. But there's a lot of brokerages out there today. So you know, if that's what you want to do, I'd support it 100%. But just make sure you're fully aware of what you're getting into.
Absolutely. And 1986, right? Let's go back in time.
I was 6. So.
When they, you know, did the knighthood thing, and they're like, "You're going to become CEO of Betterhomes." They're 6 years old. No, but that's when Betterhomes set up, and that was the first brokerage. This is the first brokerage in the UAE, which is a lot of history. And now you have 7,000 properties under management, probably more since the last podcast that you did. But at the same time, you know, talk to me about being handed those reins, right? You obviously were in competitive processes to, like, you know, get that role. And then you think about the people that are setting up their own shop. If you are capable of running a shop like this, then you could probably do your own thing as well. So the question is,
why have I not done
it? Well, no. I'm not going to put you on the spot like that.
Okay, I'm happy to answer.
We'll save that for after the podcast. No, but what do you think it takes, you know, to be CEO of, you know, the in terms of size of brokerage? How do you guys fare against?
Betterhomes is about 380 people.
Right.
Our total group size is about 800 people.
Right. So managing 300 people and being CEO of that. What have you learned, and what do you think that people that will step into those shoes need to know?
I mean, to go back on your question, so you know, it's a massive privilege to be involved and be given the reins to run Betterhomes. We've been around since 1986. We're a legacy company. Before the Burj Khalifa, before Marina, before, you know, when Betterhomes was really Jumeirah and Deira and Old Dubai, there was Betterhomes, right? And we've been here through the growth of that. So I'm very aware of that history. I'm very aware of the brand and what comes with it. And, you know, I want to make sure that we always look after that and look after the people in it. So that's first. I didn't come as CEO. I've been with the business 7 years. I joined as head of brokerage, so director of brokerage, which I did for about 2 or 3 years. And then I was MD, managing director for the last sort of 4 years, and I became CEO about 7 or 8 months ago. So it was a bit of a journey to get there and all the rest of it, which is right and proper. And what does it take? Crikey, it takes quite hard work, but it takes enjoying what you do, Joel, right? So, you know, I do it because I enjoy doing it. It's like anything. Look, you don't enjoy 100% of everything, but I enjoy 80% of what we do, and I love the people we work with. And crucially, I've got a great team. We've got some great people that've been with us a long time, and we've got some really good people who've joined us recently. So, you know, the team are the real key to it.
And what are you asking these people when they walk through your doors, asking you for? Coming in for an interview, right? What's the 2 things that are top of mind for you to filter out whether they're like in or out, or whether they proceed to the next stage?
Do you know, probably again quite simple answers, but one is attitude, you know, and second, frankly, is a bit of likability. Do I feel that actually this is somebody I'm going to enjoy working with, and the team are going to enjoy working with, because we spend long hours together, so we've got to get on with each other. So really those 2 things, and obviously the skills, and the more senior people are or more technical their roles are, they've got to be able to hit the skills that they need for it. But beyond that, it's, you know, attitude and likability.
You know, I've seen that skills can be learned and acquired.
Of course.
But a bad attitude just can't be replaced, unfortunately.
And look, you can see it pretty quickly, right, with people when you meet them and start talking.
You know, look, we've spoken about the history of Betterhomes. Let's talk about the future of Betterhomes, right? You're building an app.
Yep, we're building a number of apps, but we've launched an app this week to a test group internally. Okay,
would love access.
I'll show you after. It's quite cool, right? So we launched, you know, for full transparency, we launched an app about a year ago to clients, and it wasn't particularly well adopted, and we sort of, it made us kind of take a step back, right? It made us take a step back and think a couple of things. You know, to be fair to our team that we had doing it, is there enough people in there? Or do we have the right structures and all the rest of it? We decided we needed to support them a little bit more, so we brought a few extra people in. More the product side of things as much as anything else. That was job number 1. And secondly, we started thinking to ourselves, right, why are we building it? Is this an ego play? Do we need an app because we can go around and say we've got an app? Or, you know, what are we trying to achieve? And we sort of took a step back and went, rather than focusing at the minute on the client and trying to force a client down a funnel where they download an app from somebody where, and at what stage, we thought, let's focus on the broker.
Let's force the broker.
No, let's help the broker.
Oh, sorry, that's what I meant to say.
So let's focus on the broker. So we've built an app that is a platform for our brokers today. Okay. It launched with a test team of them about 48 hours ago. Wow. Just before I came to see you, Joel, I asked a few of them how it was, and they're all thumbs up. Look, there's a little few bugs in it. That's why it's on a test crew. But I think it's going to have real value to the brokers. And then on the flip side, it has a web app for the client. Sure. So if you now, and you're going to test this for me after this, but I want you're going to send a lead through. Okay. And if it's to one of my test brokers, once you open that up in your WhatsApp, you'll get a web link that will bring you into your own little space with Joel, and you can change your criteria that you're looking for, and it automatically generates a list for you from all our listings. So the idea is that from a broker side of things, it really helps them with their lead management and all the rest of it, and there's space for AI and things we can do cool when we work together in the future. And from the client side, the idea is, you know, stop scrolling through the portals. Why need to? It's all in one place. It's dead easy. You know, you only need to deal with one broker. We've got access to the market, that side of things. So, look, we are a few days in. So far, so good. So far, so good.
You know, building a tech product is probably very different from running a brokerage. Tell me
We've
about
probably
that.
learned more from the tech journey. You know, the whole sort of, I mean, there's so many layers to it, right? So you try and build tech stacks on top of other bits of tech, and they sort of crumble a little bit because they're archaic. So you then go, before we do that, we need to change the CRM or get the CRM, and then below the CRM, we've got the CMS, and then we've got the data warehousing. So it's a really, you know, massive. from a lowly estate agent, you start getting into this. It's massive, right? So it's probably taken us 2 years to get the bedrock and the infrastructure right in the business that we can now start doing some cool stuff. And the next 6 months, we're going to be in bringing stuff out, some really, really fun, cool stuff. So it's exciting.
So to my dad listening to this podcast, you heard it from the man Rick himself. It takes time to build tech.
It does, yeah, man. It's it takes lots of time. And we've got a cool team. There's a team of the guys here in Dubai. We've got a team over in Lahore in Pakistan, which I've visited a couple of times. They're good. So it takes time. It takes I guess the other thing is the communication, right? And making sure that the tech guys really understand what you're saying, and it's actually bringing some of those people in the middle, the product guys, fundamentally,
right,
have been a bit of a game changer for us.
Of course, and like every brokerage, there's a lot of folks that are not thinking the way that you're thinking. They're super complacent on technology right now.
Well, this goes back to what we said earlier, right? So there's lots of estate agencies, there's lots of brokerages in town.
Yes.
Lots of the models are predicated on, I'm just going to buy agents by offering them 70, 80%.
Yeah.
That doesn't leave a lot in the pot to invest. It just doesn't. If you're running your business on razor thin margins, it doesn't leave a lot in the pot to invest. So look, it's not just us. I know there are some other big agencies in town who are investing heavily. And we are investing heavily to do tools for the brokers to get them to earn more money.
Yeah.
So, frankly, they could probably get a few extra percentage if they go to another agency. But with us, they get a good percentage, but they also get the tools to do more business. That's the sort of theory behind it.
Right.
But it is a cottage industry here, right? Yeah. And that, going back to what we said earlier about the brokerage model, if it's not managed properly, the brokerage model, there isn't enough money then to invest, I guess, unless you have scale. And the US has scale, right? The US has millions and billions, 360 million people. We haven't got that here.
Yeah.
So, unless you have some margin that you can then invest, then you won't do. So that's why I think there's a bit of a lack of it over here.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned the US, because we had the big NAR settlement come out, and I know everyone listening to the podcast, like, this guy's asked about the NAR settlement like 7 times now. It's just because I am so curious to hear from people in your position, pretty much.
This is the group against the commissions.
So there's $418 million settlement that happened, and pretty much the commissions are going to get slashed by at least 30% is what they're estimating, and which means you don't have the 6% model anymore. Correct. Which means that you have portals even will get impacted by this because marketing dollars come down.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
And then on the commission side and just in general, like agent stack, it becomes a lot harder to make that revenue that you were making before. Deal volume probably goes up because if it used to transfer into home prices, it's not going to transfer as much anymore. At least we hope so. But at the same time, it begs the question, do they come shopping in Dubai for revenue, right? You talked about EXP. There's a little old player called Compass in there as well. Yep. And there's Keller Williams, all these kind of folks that are trying to get more and more tech enabled because they want to be able to scale their operations and come out here. Yeah. Guess what you have out here? Like a lot of brokers that are really hungry to go out and do it on their own because, some of them have a legitimate book and others, we'll see. Yep. But are you concerned about US brokerages entering the UAE market?
Keller Williams have been here for a long time. So no.
That is definitely
that's you can cut that one out. Compass, I don't think are here yet. EXP are here. EXP launched maybe a year ago.
Yes.
And I've got a few brokers, and Dunya, who runs that, I think very highly of.
She's coming on the podcast as well.
Very good. So there you go. I said nice things about Dunya. Yeah. But they haven't, you've got to think over here, in some ways, the brokers have kind of got the best of both worlds, right?
Right.
They haven't got to pay their own money for, as you do in the US.
Right.
So quite often these guys are getting 90% plus in the US, but they're putting in a lot of their own cash, right? Most brokerages over here, you pretty much get everything handed on a plate, and then you are giving a bit away for that. So I think there's less pressure, I think, on brokers here to jump onto that sort of model. But that's not to say somebody's not going to come in with big tech and big pockets and make a bit of noise. Yeah. The other thing about tech, though, obviously tech tends to be quite geographically focused, and there's no the models are slightly different, and so far, and this may change, but so far there's no sort of big tech from the US that's come over here and has been willing, I don't think, to invest the money for this market that they'd need to, because it's such a small market for them, right? And again, that may change, but we've dealt with quite large US firms historically, and we've signed on with them, and we've had tech from, I won't name them, but we've had tech from some very big US firms.
I think I'm familiar.
And to get them to do anything over here for our market, they just weren't interested. So in the end, we moved away from them.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a lot of people in the US with, bigger tech brains than I've got, looking at it and saying, is that market big enough for us to make the investment into it? Yeah. And at some point, someone will. But
coming from the US startup perspective, I think it is. And I think we're going to do it, right? Like, again, I don't think it's by disintermediating people out of the market saying they don't understand tech, which is, like, I think excluding people is never the way to make money, and I want to make sure that, what's the saying? The rising tides lifts all boats or something like that, right? Yeah. And I do think the tides are rising, and I think some people need help.
Look, I think someone like yourself, Joel, who has got that experience from that market over there, who is agile and has obviously brought up over here, I think someone like yourself is a huge opportunity. I don't see necessarily some of the big tech houses, the big,
of course,
the Compasses of this world.
Sure.
Even EXP, obviously they're here, but how much are they going to be spending those hard-earned dollars over here? Particularly, as you've just said, this looking at the US at the moment, and their cash cow in the US is probably going to get trimmed back for what we just spoke about.
And they don't know what UAE pass is. They don't know what WhatsApp really can do.
Exactly. Exactly. And they start looking at it and go, it sounds a bit complicated and yada, yada, yada. So, and actually the market size, it's just like a mid-sized city for them in the US, and there's hundreds of them in the US. Literally. So kind of why bother to a certain extent. So I think the door is open for the likes of yourself, Joel, to walk through.
No, I'm excited. So, look, I don't want to, you're a busy person. I don't want to, waste too much time here. But I want to ask you one final question. And that is, what advice would you give your 21-year-old self?
What advice would I look after my hair better? What advice would I give to my 21-year-old self? Look, there's been many, many mistakes I've made along the way, but I think all of them have helped me get to where I am and help me become who I am and all the rest of it. So there's nothing I would change massively. I think, I've kind of candidly in the past said move to Dubai sooner. And there's a truth to that, right? Sure. I got an opportunity to move to Dubai in about 2006 and I didn't take it. But again, I spent some really great years in London and learning. I think the advice I'd give to anyone who's 21, and myself including at that time, is worry less about what people think about you. No. Because most of the time they're not thinking about you at all. No. They're thinking about themselves. 100%. And as you get older, you start realizing nobody's worrying about you. They're all worrying about themselves. Yeah. So once you take that sort of pressure off your shoulders, the world's your oyster.
It's interesting how many of the CEO types, myself included, I always think that, you have to think that you are the center of the universe. Yeah. You're the center of your universe, right? And that adds an immense amount of pressure. You're bearing the weight of the world on your shoulders, and that's not healthy because it takes a toll, right?
Can do. You have to. I mean, we did. Funny enough, we did it this morning. I did we've got a wonderful new head of L&D joined us about 2 months ago, and she's brilliant. And she's doing some fun stuff with all our leadership, all the managers. And we've just gone through the, know yourself, your 5 voices. I've done Myers-Briggs and all that sort of stuff before.
Okay.
So it's the 5 voices, and it comes back, and it's, what kind of, what's your more sort of natural set as leader and all the rest of it. And mine keeps coming back as pioneer, which sounds awful, but it's one of the things in there is, switching off and struggling to switch off. And even sometimes staying engaged with somebody, because I'll be talking to somebody and something will come in my mind, or they'll say something that'll come in my mind and will start me thinking about something else. And my brain runs off in a different direction. And the same with my wife and my kids, and they're always like, they'll see this look I've glazed over. Like, you're thinking about work, aren't you? No. Yeah, you got me. So
be present.
Yeah, be present. That's it. So my 21-year-old self, I was more present at 21 than I am now. That's unfortunately the truth, but I think that comes with the territory. So my advice to myself today is try and be more present.
You mentioned your wife and kids. Well, they're a big part of your journey, right? I didn't want to ask any more questions, but at the same time, I think I have to ask this. Like, obviously, it's not easy juggling, that relationship that you have with your children and your family, and then, doing what you're doing, kind of a thing, because you're always like switched on, like you said. You mentioned, I've heard this before, you mentioned that you make it a point to do 2 drop-offs every week. Yeah. Right?
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah. What are the things that you do to, just disconnect and just truly enjoy that time with your family that you think that other people should also do more of? Because I think we don't all experience the same Dubai at all. Yeah. I think everyone experiences Dubai very differently. The Dubai I experienced a long time ago, I'll tell you, like on a Saturday, me and my dad at 8 a.m., we'd be waiting in front of the Lulu hypermarket. We'd be waiting for it to open up, and then we'd rush in 30 minutes in and out. Whereas if I went with my mom, it'd take 2 hours. So I'd always go with my dad. But the point is, we would do that. We'd grab some corn after, the one they put the lemon juice and the butter and all this kind of stuff. And we'd do some cricket training, and after that, you have like church and these kind of things, right? Like, so that's what, but now, I do all those things, but at the same time, my Saturdays I'll run on Kite Beach or something like that. Very picturesque, filmy, sort of version of what Dubai is supposed to be. What is that for you?
A time with the kids. So I do. I try. I mean, I need to do more, but I try to keep fit. So keep fit with the kids, because having 3 young kids is hard work. You're chasing around a lot, so that's important. I do drop-offs with them a couple of times a day, and I'd say 4 nights a week I'm back in time to do bedtime with them. And I think, again, that's important. They're quite young. They're 3, 5 and 8. Yeah. But the other one that is really important, and sadly, I'm looking at the time of year, maybe we'll squeeze one more, and is camping. For me, it's camping.
Like outdoor?
Yeah. Okay, wild camping, either in the mountains or in the desert. And all of them love it. The kids love it.
No way.
They for them.
What do you do? Like, as in, do you just pull up to like Kudra or something like that? Or
so you can go a bit further past Al Qudra, get away from the crowds a little bit, and we do a bit of dune bashing, and or we go up. There's a little spot we know up near Wadi Shwaka.
Okay. Is that Fujairah?
Yeah, it's in Fujairah. Okay. Yeah. So, and just get up there, have a drive around, go for a bit of a hike, dig a pit, cook some food, have some drinks, of course, play some music. The kids all play together, and wake up in the morning dusty and tired and come home. And that for me, I think there's such it's on our doorstep, right? The desert and the mountains are on our doorstep, and sadly not everyone knows that, or they know it, but they don't go out there and see it and experience it. But for the kids, it's free, apart from a bit of petrol, and the kids love it. The kids absolutely love it. So that's it for us. I can do that and fully switch off for a weekend.
Wow, thanks so much, Richard. I really appreciate having you here, and also that was just really fun. So, I mean, I enjoyed it, at least.
That was great fun. Cheers, Joel. I enjoyed it too.
So thank you so much for coming on. To everyone listening to the podcast, don't forget to subscribe. This has been the episode of Real Ones with Joel Alexander. Come back next week, and we'll have some amazing guests on then as well.